Why do some people become racist? Not just casually prejudiced, not just uncomfortable with difference, but deeply, emotionally, obsessively racist. What happens inside a mind that divides the world into us and them? What wiring, what fears, what histories create that? Let's go into that psychology. Slowly, precisely, unflinchingly, because the reasons are deeper and darker than most people realize. Racism is not born. Racism is built. Brick by brick, belief by belief, fear by fear. And every brick tells a story. The first brick, human tribal instinct. Humans evolved in small groups, small tribes, small circles of trust. People who looked like you, sounded like you, shared your customs. That's who kept you alive. Anthropologists like Joseph Henrich argue that early humans survived by forming intense in-group bonds. But those same bonds created outgroups, strangers, unknowns. And the brain has a simple rule. The unfamiliar equals unsafe. This is where othering begins. Not with hatred, with fear, not with ideology, with instinct. Racism hijacks this ancient survival system. It weaponizes a primitive part of the brain, the amygdala, which lights up when we perceive difference as threat. So racism doesn't start where people think it does. It starts in the oldest corner of the human mind. Second brick, cognitive shortcuts, the brain's lazy logic. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman described how the mind relies on fast thinking, quick judgments, stereotypes, mental shortcuts. Your brain says, I don't want to evaluate every individual. I'll judge groups instead. Stereotypes feel efficient, emotionally cheap, mentally easy. Racism is an extreme version of this lazy logic. A shortcut that becomes a worldview. A simplified map used as if it were the territory. And the dangerous thing, these shortcuts feel true because they feel fast. The mind confuses speed with accuracy. Third brick, fear-based worldviews. Some people grow up believing the world is dangerous, unstable, unpredictable. Psychologists call this a high-threat worldview. When you see the world as dangerous, you begin searching desperately for explanation, for patterns, for enemies. Racism provides that. It gives the fearful mind a target. The problem is them. The danger is them. The reason I'm struggling is them. This isn't logic. It's emotional self-defense disguised as certainty. Fourth brick, social learning, racism taught by culture, not biology. No one emerges from the womb believing that one group is superior to another. But children absorb everything around them. Language, attitudes, jokes, roles, fears. Albert Bandura's social learning theory says we imitate the behaviors we see rewarded around us. If a child grows up hearing slurs, watching prejudice, witnessing discrimination, the brain writes that into its worldview. This is normal. This is truth. This is how the world works. Racism becomes inherited. Not genetically, socially. A poisonous belief passed down like a family heirloom. Fifth brick, scapegoating, a psychological release valve. When life feels out of control, the brain looks for someone to blame. Economist Thomas Piketty showed how economic instability increases racial hostility. History shows it too. When jobs vanish, when insecurity rises, when people feel powerless, racism spikes. Not because people suddenly hate, because people suddenly need someone to blame. The mind seeks simplicity. Someone caused my suffering. Someone must be responsible. And prejudice provides the simplest answer. A psychological shortcut to avoid deeper pain. Sixth brick, Narcissism and superiority fantasies. Some people cling to racism because it offers an instant sense of superiority, a way to feel above someone without achieving anything. Power without effort, status without accomplishment. Psychologists call this collective narcissism, the belief that your group is special, chosen, superior. It fills the emptiness inside. It shields fragile egos. It makes powerless individuals feel important. Racism, for some, is a crutch for a wounded self-esteem. Seventh brick, identity insecurity. Research by Henry Tajfel showed how easy it is for humans to form us versus them groups. Even meaningless differences can trigger bias. But racism is often the product of something deeper. A person who's unsure who they are. People with unstable identities cling to rigid group boundaries. They define themselves by what they are not. They need others to reinforce themselves. Without an enemy, they feel dissolved. Without opposition, they feel insignificant. Racism becomes a psychological anchor, a way to feel stable in a self they don't truly understand. Eighth brick, authoritarian personality. Some people have a mind wired for control, obedience, order, hierarchy. In the 1950s, psychologists Theodore Adorno and Else Frankel Brunswick discovered the authoritarian personality type. A person drawn to strong leaders, rigid rules, strict divisions between groups. People like this often project their inner rigidity onto the world. There are superior and inferior groups. There is a natural hierarchy. Difference threatens stability. Racism fits perfectly into this worldview. Order maintained by exclusion. Ninth brick, low empathy. Neuroscientists have found that people with racist attitudes show lower activation in the brain, regions responsible for empathy, when seeing members of other racial groups in pain. Empathy requires seeing someone as human. Racism requires seeing them as less. Once empathy collapses, anything can follow. Mockery, dehumanization, violence. Racism numbs the moral compass. It anesthetizes compassion. 10th brick, propaganda, the deliberate engineering of hatred. Racism isn't only emotional. It's political. It's strategic. Leaders, institutions, and systems use racism to divide populations, consolidate power, and justify control. History is full of examples. Manufactured fears, fabricated threats, demonized groups, invented enemies. Propaganda doesn't create hatred out of nothing. It amplifies the hatred already hiding in the human mind. It lights the match sitting in the dry grass. 11th brick, isolation, echo chambers of the like-minded. The internet has created communities where racist beliefs aren't challenged, they're reinforced. Confirmation bias makes people seek information that proves their worldview. Group polarization makes people more extreme when surrounded by the like-minded. Alone, a racist idea is fragile. In a group, it becomes armor. The echo chamber becomes a psychological womb. It nurtures hatred. It protects it. It grows it. 12th brick, fear of change. Some people see diversity as a loss. Loss of tradition. Loss of culture. Loss of identity. Loss of power. Psychologists call this status threat. When a dominant group fears becoming equal, they often claim they're becoming oppressed. Racism, then, is not hatred. It's panic. A fear of losing a world that once felt familiar, predictable, and safe. 13th brick, moral disengagement. Albert Bandura described how people justify cruelty by altering their moral framework. Dehumanization, blaming victims, denying harm, using euphemisms. claiming moral superiority. Racists silence empathy through narrative. They're different. They're dangerous. They're immoral. They deserve it. Once morality bends, racism solidifies. 14th brick, the illusion of purity. Some racist beliefs come from a primitive psychological desire for purity, cultural, physical, spiritual. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt notes that the purity foundation is tied to disgust sensitivity. High disgust individuals often react strongly to unfamiliar customs, foods, appearances. That visceral reaction can crystallize into ideology. We must keep our group pure. They contaminate us. This is not logic. It's biology hijacked into belief. 15th brick, the terror of insignificance. At the core of many racist individuals is a simple truth. They fear being irrelevant. Irrelevant in society. Irrelevant in history. Irrelevant in their own lives. Racism gives them a story that says, "You matter because your group matters. You are important because your race is important." It's a mythology of meaning, a cure for existential emptiness. Now let me leave you with the question that shadows all of this. If racism is not one thing, but many things: fear, identity, laziness, ego, insecurity, trauma, culture, propaganda, then ask yourself, how much of racism is about others? And how much is about the person who holds it? When someone is racist, are they really revealing who you are? Or who they are? And if racism is built brick by brick, what happens when a person finally sees the walls they've trapped themselves behind? Do they break them? Or do they hide inside them forever?